5 signs you're becoming a dark chosen one. There's a moment in the spiritual path that no one talks about. A quiet, almost invisible turning point. You're meditating, journaling, praying, healing, doing all the right things. The light is growing inside you, yes. But then something strange happens. The world starts feeling different. You begin to sense a pulling, a shadow wrapped in gold, a silence that isn't peaceful but watchful. It's as if something ancient has begun to notice you. You feel it in your bones. Not fear, not evil, but power. A deep, dark, sacred power that doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't beg to be liked. It doesn't follow the rules. And when it arrives, you know, you're no longer just becoming awakened. You're becoming something else. A dark chosen one. This isn't a title you claim. It's a path that claims you. And it doesn't come with fanfare or applause. It comes with loss, with isolation, with a strange sense that you're walking between dimensions where nothing is quite real, and yet everything is more real than ever before. Have you felt it? The feeling that you're being prepared for something you can't name, that your pain wasn't random, that your rage, your sorrow, your shadow was never a mistake, but a weapon the universe forged in silence.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's be clear. The dark chosen one is not evil. That's the first sign you're waking up. You stop believing in the old stories of light versus dark. You realize that true power doesn't live in polarity. It lives in wholeness. You begin to embrace the parts of yourself you were taught to suppress, the anger, the ambition, the hunger for truth that burns so hot it makes others uncomfortable. You stop seeing your emotions as weaknesses. You start seeing them as maps, gateways, codes. You begin to understand that your darkness is not your enemy. It's your inheritance. Most people fear their own power. That's why they stay small. That's why they cling to the light like it's a safety blanket. But you start to notice that the light alone doesn't satisfy you anymore. It feels incomplete. You want depth. You want intensity. You want the truth, even if it burns. And so you go deeper, into yourself, into the shadow, into the realms where your ancestors whispered in dreams. And that's the second sign. Your dreams become strange, prophetic, terrifying, beautiful. You start dreaming of symbols, of dark forests, of ancient temples, of being hunted and crowned in the same breath. You wake up with words in your mouth that aren't yours, with visions that make no sense but feel completely real. The veil starts thinning, and you realize you're no longer just healing, you're remembering. But remembering what? That's the question that starts haunting you. You feel disconnected from the world, from your friends, from your old desires. You don't want what others want. You don't chase the same approval. And that's the third sign. You begin to walk alone, and it doesn't scare you. You feel the loneliness, yes, but it doesn't break you. In fact, something in you thrives in solitude. You start craving silence. You disappear from social noise. You become hypersensitive to lies, to shallow conversations, to anything that feels fake. You'd rather sit in darkness with your truth than shine in the spotlight with a lie. You start hearing the universe differently through silence, through stillness, through sacred rage. And then it happens. The fourth sign, the one that changes everything. You start to be tested in ways that feel personal, cosmic, and brutal. People betray you. Opportunities vanish. Your body breaks down. Your mind is pushed to the edge. And still, something in you refuses to die. It's as if the universe is stripping you of everything you thought you needed just to show you that you were always the source, that the power is not given. It's unlocked through fire, through pressure, through the death of your old identity. And when that fire comes, most people run. But you You walk straight into it. You scream. You cry. You fall to your knees. But you don't leave. You stay. And that's when the alchemy begins. The fifth sign. It's the most subtle and the most profound. You stop needing to prove anything because you know. You know who you are. You know that your pain was sacred, that your darkness is intelligent, that your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. You stop asking for permission to exist. You stop playing by the rules of light workers who still fear the shadow. You become the storm, the oracle, the mirror. People start reacting to you differently. Some fear you. Some are magnetized. But all can feel you. Because your energy is undeniable. You've become rare, unshakable, unapologetically whole. And now I ask you this. What if your darkness was never a flaw, but a compass? What if the very things you've hidden were your tools for leadership in this collapsing world? What if you weren't sent here to be safe or soft, but to be sovereign and sacredly dangerous to illusions? Becoming a dark chosen one isn't about power over others. It's about power over yourself. It's about becoming the kind of presence that can walk into any room, any dimension, any battlefield, and remain rooted. Awake, fierce, compassionate, uncompromising. You don't destroy for fun. You destroy illusions. You don't yield to fear. You listen to it. You don't follow the light. You are the lightning. And maybe, just maybe, that's why life has broken you so many times. Maybe it was forging you. Maybe the darkness didn't come to consume you but to crown you. The power of sacred rebellion, why the dark chosen ones break every rule to awaken the world. There's a kind of rebellion that doesn't start in the streets, it starts in the soul. It's not loud, not chaotic, not fueled by ego or anger. It's silent, sacred. It begins the moment you realize that the world you were taught to trust is built on illusions, that the rules you were told to follow were never designed to liberate you, they were designed to domesticate you. And in that moment, something ancient awakens, not just resistance, not just defiance, but remembrance. A fire that says, I didn't come here to fit in, I came here to awaken. This is the path of the dark chosen one. Not someone who rebels for attention, but someone who rebels because they remember a deeper truth. You realize you cannot serve two masters, the system and your soul. And so you begin to choose your soul, again and again, even when it costs you everything. That's the sacred rebellion. It's not about destruction, it's about disruption. You don't break rules because you hate structure. You break rules because they no longer serve the evolution of consciousness. You question everything not because you're cynical, but because you're aware. You see the cracks in the illusion, the false masks, the manipulated truths, and you refuse to pretend anymore. But this rebellion is lonely. It comes with exile. People don't understand why you've changed, why you no longer play the game. You walk away from careers that don't feed your soul, from relationships that don't honor your truth, from belief systems that once felt like home, but now feel like cages. And this is where the power begins to crystallize. You realize that loss is not punishment, it's purification. You're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. Every door that closes is making space for your real path to emerge. Every rejection is redirection. You're not here to save the world. You're here to shock it awake, to bring a frequency so honest, so raw, so electric, that it can't be ignored. That's why your energy is disruptive. That's why people either love you or fear you, because you reflect what they're not ready to face in themselves. You don't play nice, you play true. And truth is dangerous to a world built on lies. That's why the dark chosen ones are often misunderstood, labeled as intense, too much, unapproachable. But in reality, they are the ones doing the deep, invisible work of dismantling the unconscious programming of an entire generation. The sacred rebel doesn't need validation. They need freedom. You don't ask for permission to be who you are. You don't wait for approval before speaking your truth. You don't shrink to make others feel safe. You stand in your power not to dominate, but to liberate. Your presence becomes a trigger and a blessing, a challenge and a catalyst. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be remembered as one who walked through fire and came out holy. It's not easy to walk this path. The world will test you. It will try to tame you. It will try to seduce you back into comfort and conformity. But the dark chosen one doesn't forget. You remember the feeling of betrayal when you abandoned your truth. You remember the pain of silence when your soul begged you to speak. You remember the weight of pretending to be light when your power lived in the shadow. And so, you rebel not out of hate, but out of love. Love for the truth. Love for freedom. Love for the awakening that is coming, whether the world is ready or not. And in your rebellion, you inspire others to rise, not by preaching but by being. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes a map. You become proof that it's possible to live without compromise, that it's possible to hold both shadow and light in one body, that it's possible to burn down the lies and still walk in love. So I ask you this, what rules are you still following that cost you your soul? What would happen if you let them fall? What if your sacred rebellion is the very medicine the world needs right now? You are not too much. You are too real for a world still addicted to the artificial. Keep breaking the illusions. Keep choosing truth. Keep walking the edge. Because the dark chosen ones don't just survive the system, they rewrite it. The weight of the crown, why the dark chosen ones must lose everything to become who they really are. There's a moment in every dark chosen one's journey that breaks them so completely they forget who they were before the fall. Everything they thought was solid relationships, identity, purpose, even the ground beneath their feet vanishes. It feels like betrayal, like abandonment by life itself. But it's not. It's the ancient ritual of rebirth. It's the sacred crushing that precedes the crowning. Because before you can wear the weight of your true power, you must be emptied of everything false. And that, right there, is the secret most never speak about. Before the crown touches your head, it breaks your spine. You see, the crown of the dark chosen one is not made of gold or glory. It's made of truth, and truth is heavy. It demands that you carry not just your own pain, but the collective shadows of a world that has forgotten itself. It asks you to walk through fire, not once but again and again, until you are no longer afraid of burning. Until you realize that the fire doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. But to reach that point, you must lose everything that was never truly yours. The titles, the masks, the attachments, the identities that kept you safe but small, they all have to go. This is not punishment. This is purification. And it hurts like hell. When you start losing everything, it feels like death. And in many ways, it is. The death, the version of you that was built for survival, not sovereignty. The version of you that needed to be liked, accepted, understood. That version dies screaming. But it has to. Because the crown doesn't sit on the head of someone trying to please the world. It sits on the one who has faced the void and come back whole. And here's the paradox: the more you lose, the more you gain. Not in material terms, but in clarity, in presence, in power. You stop chasing what doesn't feed your soul. You stop tolerating what insults your truth. You stop apologizing for your intensity, your vision, your knowing. You walk differently. Talk differently. You realize that silence is sometimes more powerful than speaking. That solitude is not loneliness, it's sacred space. But the world doesn't understand this kind of transformation. They'll say you've changed, become cold, arrogant, detached. But what they're really feeling is your sovereignty. And it scares them because it reflects back their own unconscious bondage. You become a living contradiction, wild yet grounded, fierce yet gentle, shadowed yet illuminated. You no longer belong to any tribe, any label, and any system. You belong to the truth, and the truth alone. And that's when the crown begins to form, not as a thing you wear, but as a frequency you embody. People start coming to you, not for answers, but for presence. They feel something in you that can't be explained. A depth, an edge, a silence that speaks volumes. They sense that you've been somewhere they haven't dared to go. And that's the weight of the crown. Your very existence becomes a mirror for others to see themselves more clearly. Not everyone will thank you for it. Some will project, some will leave. But the ones who are ready, they will awaken. So let me ask you something real, something raw. What have you been clinging to that's actually keeping your crown away? What is life trying to take from you, not to punish you, but to free you? The truth is, the crown never comes to those who beg for it. It comes to those who are willing to be emptied again and again, until all that remains is essence, power without pretense, love without conditions, presence without performance. That is the true authority of the dark chosen one. And once you wear that crown not on your head, but in your being, you don't need to announce it. The world feels it. The room shifts when you enter. Time slows. People remember something ancient just by being near you. You become a portal, a presence, a force. Not because you sought to be one, but because you surrendered to the truth of who you are. This is the weight of the crown. The return of the unseen kings, what happens when dark chosen ones finally accept their destiny. There is a silence that descends when a dark chosen one finally accepts who they are. It's not the silence of defeat or resignation, it's the silence of arrival. After the storms, the exile, the inner wars, and the endless shedding of everything false, something inside of you stops resisting. You stop trying to be understood. You stop trying to fit into a world you were never made for. You stop negotiating with fate. And in that surrender, something ancient rises. Not loud, not dramatic, but absolute. Your soul takes the throne it was always destined to occupy. Dark chosen ones are not born into royalty. They're forged in the wilderness. They rise not through bloodlines, but through breakdowns. Their power doesn't come from titles, it comes from trials. They are not crowned by society. They are crowned by the cosmos. The unseen kings and queens of this realm do not rule with force. They rule with frequency. They walk among the broken, the lost, the seekers not above, but with. And yet, those who feel them know instantly, something about them is different. There's a gravity to their presence, a stillness that commands without words, a gaze that sees beyond the surface. When a dark chosen one accepts their destiny, they stop hiding their depth. They stop pretending they're not as powerful as they are. They stop downplaying their knowing, their healing, their insight. They no longer fear being too much, because they realize that their too muchness was never the problem, it was the medicine. They recognize that their very existence disrupts the illusions others cling to, and instead of shrinking, they stand, fully, quietly, unapologetically. But here's the beautiful twist: when they stand in their truth, they don't become unreachable. They become magnetic, not because they chase attention, but because they radiate authenticity. In a world addicted to masks, the one who has none becomes irresistible. People are drawn not just to their presence, but to the permission that presence gives to be raw, wild, real, whole. The dark chosen one becomes a living invocation, a call to remember, a signal to those who are ready to awaken from the dream. And yet, they do not seek followers. They are not here to build empires. They are here to awaken sovereigns. They do not want your worship. They want your remembrance. They know that their power is not unique, it's simply activated. And their mission is to activate others, to walk into the darkest parts of the world and say, "You are still sacred. Rise." So I ask you now, in the deepest part of your being, what would change if you stopped waiting to be ready and started living as if you already are? What would happen if you accepted the crown that's been waiting for you not on your head, but in your heart? This is the return of the unseen kings, the guardians of truth, the carriers of ancient codes. They move through the chaos not untouched by it, but transformed by it. They are not looking to escape the world. They are here to rebuild it from the inside out. And maybe, just maybe, that includes you. You feel it, don't you? Then rise, quietly, fiercely, completely. Your throne was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to remember.